Hello and welcome to the Deep Dive. It's our first ever Deep Dive Q&A. And don't worry, it's not just me. Josh Williams, the man, the legend, is going to be in the house. We asked for your questions. We answer your questions. If you want the full 50-minute show, that is available on redmenplus.com. Use the code DEEP for 50% off a monthly captain subscription. So for 2 months, you'll get it for £3.50 a month. And that gives you access to everything we do and every deep dive we've ever done. Because you know, we do one on YouTube for free, one on Redmen Plus. If you want to get involved, then use the code DEEP. This show is about answering your questions. So without further ado, let's get into it. I want to ask, is the Mo Salah evolution because he is aging, or an evolution that is because he is more so just getting better? So maybe the question is whether there are any quantifiable statistics that show any dip in pace or work rate. Now, to answer the second part of the question is probably the easiest thing to rule out first and foremost, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah, in terms of like physical statistics, like distance covered, funnily enough, and top speed and things like that, we just can't get access to that in the public space unless the player is playing in the Bundesliga for some reason. So in terms of that, we can't tell. It doesn't look like that on the eye test. I don't know about you. Mm-hmm. In terms of his run ability, he still looks as rapid as ever. But in terms of the evolution side of things, I think it's a combination of A, he's aging, and for that reason, he's not going to be at Liverpool for much longer. And B, the team is kind of adopting a new dynamic, really, and you know, it's a new team that Klopp's building. He keeps talking about Liverpool 2.0, Liverpool Reloaded, all this sort of stuff. And if you look at the makeup of the current system, the new system, it's kind of shaped for the guy in the middle, the poacher, the striker, to be the main threat. You know, the guy who gets most of the goals. Like if you look at City with Haaland, for example, Liverpool are working towards a similar dynamic, I think. And in that sense, Salah previously was working as an inside forward with a false nine and Firmino, and he was the main goal scorer in that kind of makeup. Now it's changing a bit. Salah's got a bit more of an emphasis on creation. So I think it makes sense to do that, considering if he's now 31, he's not always going to be at the club. You can't always rely on him to be scoring like 25 a season. It makes sense to kind of move that burden onto the lad who's kind of up and coming and hopefully going to be able to deliver that sooner rather than later. I
tried to find some statistical evidence of exactly what you're saying there. But before I do, I'm going to go over to understat.com and I'm just going to sort of show you this column here, the XG column. So these are the expected goals scored. And what you can see, to be fair, is 6 years where he overperforms on the XG, and then the last 3 years he's kind of underperformed the XG a little bit. So he did sort of overperform. It's really hard to gauge, I suppose, here, isn't it, whether that's, you know, him declining or whatever. It could be just the strength of shot, etc, etc. Yeah. But that is one way that you might be able to look at it. The creative stats, I think, have always been kind of up and down depending on the season. Obviously, it depends on the goal scorer that you're passing the ball to as well on the XGA stuff.
To be fair, I don't know what the stats are offhand, but we did a show a couple of weeks ago, didn't we, on like Salah the creator type thing, and his creative numbers in terms of like the shots he was creating for his teammates in every game was as high as ever has been at Liverpool. That was a small sample size at the time, but that again would offer an insight into like a kind of tactical shift for him.
Do you want to see some homemade shit?
Go on.
Right, here we go. Here's my spreadsheet that I made to see. I'm going to put this in the middle of us so you can see as well a little bit better there. So what I've done is I've compared 19-20 Salah to 23-24. Of course, small sample size. It's really too early to be able to look at this. But what I wanted to find out is what you were talking about before, is that working with Firmino versus working with somebody like Darwin Núñez. So what I just thought of a simple way of working that out is, how many shots was this guy having inside of the penalty area? And actually it turns out that he was having 75% of his shots inside the penalty area. Now, 60% this season on a small sample size. Don't get me wrong, this could completely go the other way in the next 8 games or something.
Yeah.
And I've taken off the penalties. He's had 3 penalties so far this season. He had 3 penalties in 19-20 as well. So I've taken them off. And you can see there, he's had 60% of his shots in the penalty area compared to 75. And I think, again, small sample size, it does have an impact who you're playing with. Yeah. Whether it is Firmino, or Darwin Núñez, it would really have an impact if it was Firmino playing in the false 9. So I just thought that was interesting. Now, as a percentage of the front 3, he was having 42% of the shots. It's down a little bit, but it's still very high in terms of 40% of the shots. Now, Núñez hasn't played in every game, so Gakpo's numbers aren't in there and all that type of stuff, which is why that's so skewed, I think. If I'd have gone a level deeper and gone centre forward, I think his percentage would have dropped quite considerably.
Yeah, well, I think a glaring thing for me there is Núñez's shots per 90.
Yeah,
are currently just over 5 per 90, 5 efforts on goal per 90. Firmino was averaging about 2.9. So it's a completely different type of player that you're bringing in there.
And there you can see he was averaging 4.09 shots per 90. Now he's averaging 3.32 shots per 90. Again, can't really answer the question of, is it because he is ageing or is it just purely because Liverpool have changed system? It's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah, I agree.
With Robbo injured, should we play 3 centre-backs and give someone like Joel Matip licence to venture forward with the ball more or stick to play in Tsimikas? I think this is a really interesting question, actually, Jacob, because I was talking about this in the office. Like, I wondered whether we might go to someone like a Joe Gomez who could play there. Obviously, we knew that he played left-back. Was it under Rodgers he played left-back for us?
Yeah, that was his debut, I think, wasn't it? Arsenal.
Mate, we got absolutely beasted at Anfield by West Ham, I think it was, 3-0 with him playing left-back, and he had an absolute shocker, and it stuck with me that game, and it scared me a little bit. But Joe Gomez is so much more experienced now that I wouldn't feel bad about Joe Gomez starting there, and it would give, if he was to do that, right, it would give you an idea of all the conversations we've had about Andy Robertson. They might be right. Like, if he just plays Tsimikas, I think I know Tsimikas' level, to be honest with you, and I'm not sure that Tsimikas is the best option for us right now. Whereas I know Joe Gomez can do the fucking right back inverting, right? Joe Gomez can definitely do left back staying as a centre back. Do you know what I mean? I'd probably feel more comfortable, but I'm not sure that that's where Liverpool are going.
No, I am uncomfortable with the thought of Tsimikas playing a derby, for example. I've got a similar question, by the way, from Cal Webb Fitness. He asks similar. Would you consider a back 3 or Gomez at left back instead of Tsimikas on Saturday? But it's a tricky one, that, because if you've got Gomez over there, one of the problems you will encounter is he's right-footed, so he'll be inverting. He'll be naturally kind of coming inside like this. You got to bear in mind Trent is already doing that. Salah is doing that over here. And whoever plays over here will be right-footed, he's also doing that. So you suddenly have a width problem. So I think if Gomez was to play there, it would result in maybe a Diaz playing a bit more like a winger, or Gomez maybe playing really close to the flanks, but I can't really see that, to be honest. So maybe you have to get your width from elsewhere. Maybe Salah goes wider on this flank or something like that. But the thought of everyone inverting towards the centre of the pitch sounds a bit nuts. And if you're breaking down a block, which Everton will probably bring, you will need that width in some way. So it would impact us in that sense. If you play Tsimikas, he just gets to play like Robertson has, but without anywhere near the same engine or recovery pace. Mm-hmm. So if Tsimikas does start doing the width stuff for Diaz, so Diaz can come inside, and there's a turnover, him getting back in would be a problem probably compared to Robertson getting back in. You know what I mean?
So I think it's more that for me anyway. Like, I wouldn't, if I had Joe Gomez playing the left back, I would go back to the template, what you do in this formation type of thing.
The Guardiola kind of
exactly.
approach, yeah.
Not the Liverpool Robertson version. Yeah. I'm having Joe Gomez stay there and nowhere near build-up play. And the width thing, if, like, let's say Jones was available, Jones has been providing width anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know what I mean? For when Diaz does that. And that left-sided midfielder has been able to do that. Gravenberch, we've seen him pop up on the wings in his sort of brief cameos and stuff. So I'd go more template 5v5. And that's why I think Joe Gomez would work for us. I think you get more defensive stability out of Joe Gomez anyway. I think he's faster. I think he's better at defending. You quite often have inverted wingers, which we've discussed already on this show. Having that be on your right foot is probably a good thing. Yeah. When you're defending those situations, because you're on your strongest foot versus them on their strongest foot. It's horses for courses, I suppose.
It's worth throwing out there as well that obviously Everton are big on set pieces, so Joe Gomez is probably going to cope better at nullifying that than Tsimikas is. So maybe you want him in the team for that reason alone, really.
Do you think he actually will play a centre back there?
My worry would be what message does that send to Tsimikas? You know what I mean? The one guy ahead of you.
This one.
Just got a new contract, by the way.
I know. Madness.
The one guy who's in the team ahead of you is now injured, and you play a right-footed, right-sided centre-back in his place to avoid getting you on the pitch. Tsimikas would be sat on the bench, mate, just fuming, wouldn't he?
Yeah. I for what it's worth, I actually do think Tsimikas will start.
I wouldn't be surprised.
What he does offer you, I think, which is better than Andy Robertson, is his set-piece delivery is fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's interesting. This is a great one and not really deep diveable. But David Stanyon says, pick two former players that would make us a title-winning side. You can't pick Gerrard or Kenny.
I love that question.
It's a great question.
I think it's great, yeah.
Are we both agreeing with Suarez?
Yeah.
Sounds. Not even...
No. Absolutely insane. He's in there immediately, yeah. And I love Nunes, by the way. But...
Get fucked.
Yeah, Suarez was... Suarez is the best player I've seen, not named Messi or Ronaldo. I think he's the third best player of that era.
I've never seen a season like that 13-4 season by anybody. I've never jumped up off my chair when someone just got the ball. He was just ridiculous. Like, and if you haven't seen him, if you're new to Liverpool for whatever reason, go and check out Luis Suarez, man, at Liverpool. And just there's things still floating around on Twitter and stuff nowadays, isn't there? Of his compilations. Like, he was just the most ridiculous player you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah. Even when he went to Barcelona. Like, he scored 40 goals, mate. 40 La Liga goals in 35 appearances and 17 assists. That's 57 scoring contributions in 35 appearances. And I'm pretty sure that season, ahead of Messi and Ronaldo, he got the Golden Boot.
Wow.
You know, that's insane, honestly. Unbelievable player.
He was absolutely
available
ridiculous.
Every week, by the way.
The thing is, you could look at this in a completely different way. When we're looking at this formation, right, with Liverpool now, I might be looking at left-sided centre-half and a DM, and yet there's no way I'm not getting Luis Suarez into my side.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, having someone who's going to score me 40 goals in a season is going to mask the problems that I've got back here, as far as I'm concerned, which is actually, funnily enough, exactly what Brendan Rodgers did that year.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking tactically myself, and I was thinking, like, well, the holes in this current system are DM, left-sided centre-back, but I was thinking, right, throughout Liverpool's history, since I've been watching them at least, left-sided centre-backs, left-footed defenders, there's no one. For me, there isn't anyway. I mean, it probably is Robertson still there. For anyone my age, you'll remember Phil Babb, Julian Dix, Neil Ruddock, Scales played over on the left-hand side, but I think he was right-footed. Obviously, you got Stig Bjornaby as the left-sided wing-back and stuff like that. So you're right, there was nobody. Yeah, John Arisa will throw in there as well, but maybe not. I hated him. So yeah, I think we can sacrifice that to accommodate just one of the best players ever. I mean, that season I've just mentioned there, I've just got the numbers up. Suarez scored 40 in La Liga and registered 17 assists. Ronaldo, for example, this is like peak Ronaldo, really. 35 goals, 9 assists. Suarez 40 and 17, mate. What did Messi get? Messi got 26 goals and 14 assists. That was probably one of Messi's worst seasons. Yeah. Wasn't it? Yeah. And Neymar got 24 goals and 10 assists. God, what a ridiculous... This isn't even the season that Liverpool fans talk about. Liverpool fans talk about the last season at Anfield. He went to Barcelona and he reached an even higher level. Unbelievable.
So yeah, we've both gone Luis Suarez. That was easy. By the way, there'll be loads of people I'd guess listening to this going, couldn't Danny Agger play there as a left-sided centre half?
That completely bypassed me.
People who watch Redmen Plus will know my feelings on Daniel Agger, and that's why I haven't put him forwards, and I did remember him.
Go on, I'd like to know them feelings.
I just don't think he was very good.
Okay. One thing I do remember, he wasn't available very often, was he?
No. And we were really, really shit defensively for most of the years that he was there.
Yeah, one outlier season there where he starts 35 games in the Premier League, which is mad. But other than that, he doesn't get above 24. I'd still rather Suarez than
I really think he was overrated, and I get dog's abuse for saying this all the time, like, just because he smashed one in against fucking Villa or something in like one of the first games of the season. Like, I just don't think he was that good a defender. Like, yeah, you got YNWA tattoos on you. That's not enough for me. I needed to be good at defending.
Well, to be
fair,
he
was great at passing the ball. I'll never say otherwise.
Yeah.
But defensively, we were gash. Look at the years he played for us. Does anyone remember those fucking years? Like 2006 to 2013. Not exactly the glory years of Liverpool Football Club. And it wasn't just his fault, by the way. But he's the one that gets mentioned more often than not.
I mean, to be fair, like, I would rather have Suarez and Robertson than Agger and Nunes. If you think of that as a duo, you know what I mean?
So we going DM for the next one then?
DM's got to be the next one.
Who are you going for?
I would just go peak Fabinho if I could. We've just sold the guy, but he wasn't the same level. So if you could just get that version of him back in, for me, we'd probably win the league this year. You know, I think.
I think from the players that I've seen, I'd be really tempted by Javier Mascherano as just this absolute, you know, terrier to go and win the ball back. Obviously didn't have the Liverpool career that we would perhaps hope.
How would you feel though if when Liverpool weren't in possession of the ball, that was Mascherano?
That's exactly what I want him in there for.
But he never did that, you know.
Not for us. No.
That's what I mean. So I would think he would be the type. Say this is an opposition player. You know, he'd just charge at them, mate.
Charge at them. Yeah, but that's Javier Mascherano, mate.
That's not a deal. We've
got Luis Suarez up front. They're never getting past the front three. Suarez is going to press into next week. I'm fine with Javier Mascherano. I think the right answer, though, as far as Liverpool players are, I am hearing the old arses like my dad tell me. Graham Souness is the one.
Yeah, I wouldn't know, but I've heard great things myself, like, so.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the tapes and stuff like that. My dad talked about him for years and years and years and still does. I think Souness and Suarez would add some much needed steel to this Liverpool side. Yeah. And obviously Souness was more than just a defensive monster. He was absolutely brilliant going forward. How did you get into stats and analytics?
Where to start? I think I've always been more of a tactics guy. I've always found strategy interesting, to the extent when I was a kid, I would find video games that were strategic more stimulating. So you've got the kid next to me playing FIFA, and I would be playing Footy Manager, and I'd be playing even Worms. It's quite a strategic game, innit? SimCity, you know, strategic games like that. That's always been me. So I always had an interest in that sort of thing. So started going down the kind of tactics route and just tweeting me thoughts on a random account and things like that. Built up a bit of a following, and then got to a point where a job was going at Reach for a scouting writer. So a scouting writer is, the idea was a writer with the knowledge of a scout. That was the crux of it. Like, I applied, probably wasn't good enough at the time to get it, but I luckily got it. Reach, for those who don't know, is the company that owns like the Mirror, the Echo, Manchester Evening News and places like that. And I started writing for them for a couple of years. Man United, Arsenal, Liverpool, you know, you name it. I got to the extent where I was writing about like Lincoln City, I remember at one time.
Rivet and stuff.
Yeah, teams that I'd never watched. And that was where the numbers came in then, because at Reach there's a bit of a demand for volume of content, so you've got to get through quite a lot, and I didn't have the time to watch Lincoln City and to determine what they were doing.
Does? I mean, I'm not even sure their fans do.
Yeah. So that was when I started kind of relying on the numbers, interpreting them, getting a really quick picture. This is how they play. And I found it amazing how quickly I could get an accurate picture of what a player was like or a team was like, just by looking at the numbers, having a glance. And that was a good few years ago now, and now I've got to a point where my opinions are like shaped by the numbers, really. If I see something on the pitch that I think's going on, and you know, I'll check the numbers after the game, and the numbers don't reinforce what I'm saying. Rather than me looking at the numbers and thinking like they're wrong, they're crap or whatever, I'll question myself and like try and make that my own opinions are like, you know, 50% eye test, 50% numbers and that sort of thing. But yeah, that's kind of how that's a long-winded answer of how I got onto the path of numbers, because I'm not really a maths guy, to be honest. I failed GCSE maths, for example, and I'm not like a spreadsheets person, I don't like that, but I've just kind of got to grips with it in a football context over the past few years.
There you go. That's the end of the deep dive Q&A. Thank you to everybody who got involved. If you want to see the full show, use the code DEEP on redmenplus.com as a captain monthly, and you will get 50% off for the first 2 months, and it gives you access to everything we've ever done. 12 years worth of content for just about £3.50 a month. Don't forget to drop a like on the video. It really does help. And thanks again for sending the questions in, because without you, we wouldn't have had content this week. Ta-ra.
Thank you so very, very much for checking out the video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like. The season is now well underway. If you need extra Redmen content, be it podcast, videos, documentaries, interviews, and general shows, fill your boots on redmenplus.com today.